always racing forward, chasing updates, upgrades, and urgent notifications. We've started to overlook something precious, not something old-fashioned, not something broken or irrelevant, just quiet, just deeply human. We've forgotten the wisdom of the elderly, the men and women who've seen entire eras rise and fall, who've lost people they loved and found the strength to keep going, who didn't have apps or algorithms to guide them, only instinct, faith, and the kind of patience most of us have forgotten how to hold. They lived through real hardship, built families from scratch, endured heartbreak, illness, war, disappointment, and still woke up each day with a little hope in their bones. They didn't post their victories. They lived them, and in their words, in the cracks of their voices, in the pauses between stories, lie answers to the very questions we keep asking. How do we survive when everything we counted on falls apart? How do we stay grounded in a world that never stops spinning? How do we move forward when we're not sure we even can? Today, we're going to slow down. We're going to listen, not to trending tips or life hacks, but to something far more valuable. The kind of wisdom that only comes from living long, loving hard, and learning the hard way. This is not nostalgia. This is survival. Because tapping into the wisdom of our elders isn't just a tribute to the past. It's a lifeline for the future. Brain Chapter 1. Why we need elderly wisdom more than ever. We are drowning in information. Everywhere we turn, someone's offering advice, a podcast host, a social media guru, a best-selling book claiming to have the secret. But if you've ever faced something truly difficult, loss, uncertainty, heartbreak, you know that information isn't the same as wisdom. Wisdom comes from living, from decades of small decisions, big consequences, heartbreaks you didn't think you'd survive, and moments of grace that came out of nowhere. It's shaped by trial, by regret, by forgiveness, not just theory or trends. Our elders didn't grow up with life coaches or mindfulness apps. They didn't post their struggles or curate their identities. They lived raw, unfiltered. They made mistakes and carried them. They learned how to apologize without needing a platform. They loved fiercely, often without knowing if love would be returned. These are the people who raised children with no manuals, who worked 3 jobs and still came home to tuck their kids in at night, who stayed in marriages that bent but didn't break, or walked away when they knew stay would crush their spirit. They lost homes, jobs, spouses, and still managed to show up the next morning. And when you sit down across from someone in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, you're not just hearing stories. You're receiving inheritance. Not in money, but in memory. You're being handed blueprints, clues, time-tested truths carved from years of rising and falling. Because as much as the world has changed, as fast as our tools, screens, and expectations have evolved, the core struggles of being human haven't. We still long for connection. We still wrestle with fear, with loneliness, with loss. We still get blindsided by grief and paralyzed by uncertainty. And no algorithm, no quote of the day, no trending self-help hack can replace the deep, earned wisdom of someone who has lived through it and come out on the other side with a quiet, steady strength. We need that wisdom now more than ever, not to go backward, but to move forward with grounding, with grace, with truth. Because our elders don't just know how to survive, they know how to live. Chapter 2, what they know that we forget. What exactly is it that elderly wisdom offers? What makes it different from the constant stream of advice we scroll through every day? It's not louder, it's not shinier, but it is deeper, and perhaps most importantly, it's calm. Our elders don't react with panic the way many of us do. They've learned to zoom out, to wait, to let the storm pass before deciding if it's really a storm at all. They've lived long enough to know that the email that ruined your morning, the traffic that made you late, the mistake that kept you up last night, none of it will matter in a week. Certainly not in a year, and almost never in 10. When you ask an 85-year-old what they were worried about at 35, they usually smile and say, I can't even remember. That's not forgetfulness. That's perspective. And that kind of peace only comes from seeing the long game of life. Something most of us forget while we're sprinting through each day. But it's not just perspective they carry. They also show us the profound beauty of simplicity. Many of them grew up with very little. They learned to reuse things, repair what broke, stretch a meal across 3 days, and find joy in ordinary. They didn't chase upgrades or compare lives through glass screens. They built happiness out of what they had, not what they lacked. And in doing so, they remind us, gratitude isn't a luxury. It's a way of life. They knew how to be present, how to sit on a porch and just listen to birds, how to enjoy conversation without checking a phone, how to find deep comfort in silence, in company, in a cup of tea that took time to make. And then there's something else, a quiet strength we often overlook, resilience through ritual. Many of them lived through war, famine, economic collapse, personal loss, and they didn't numb it or outrun it. They endured it through structure, through faith, through the discipline of daily habits. They woke up and prayed. They wrote letters to faraway family. They swept their porches, folded their clothes with care, cooked meals slowly and thoughtfully. These routines weren't meaningless. They were anchors. They gave shape to long days and a rhythm to life when everything else felt uncertain. In a world that worships productivity and speed, our elders teach us that repetition isn't weakness, it's strength. It's how they held themselves together when everything around them was falling apart. So what do they know that we forget? They know how to slow down without losing momentum, how to keep going without needing to win, how to stay grounded when the world starts to shake. They remind us that we don't always need more information. Sometimes we just need to return to what's simple, to what lasts, to what's already known. Older Adult Chapter 3, 5 Life Challenges and What the Elderly Can Teach Us. Life today feels louder than ever. Everywhere we turn, we're hit with pressure to succeed, to stay relevant, to be okay, even when we're not. But what if the answers we need right now aren't new? What if they've been sitting quietly in the stories of those who came before us? Those who've already lived through storms we haven't even seen. Let's take 5 of the most painful, confusing life challenges people face today and hear how the elderly navigated them, not with perfection, but with truth and endurance. Puzzle piece challenge number 1. The fear of the future, uncertainty and anxiety. Today, we're wired to panic at the first sign of trouble. A bad headline, a late payment, a symptom we can't explain. We spiral, we overthink, we drown in what ifs. But when you talk to someone in their 80s or 90s, their tone is different. They've seen recessions swallow jobs. They've lived through wars, rationing, and losses that never made the news. They've walked through real fear, not the kind you scroll past, but the kind that makes you hold your breath. And what did they do? They kept moving. Grandma Ruth, now 91, once said, "When I felt scared, I cleaned something, or I baked bread, because fear lives in your head, and your hands, they know how to carry you forward." That's the kind of wisdom we forget in our digital world. You don't always have to solve the future. Sometimes you just have to wash the dishes, make your bed, bake something warm, put your hands to work, and let your mind breathe. Broken Heart Challenge number 2. Heartbreak and the pain of letting go. Heartbreak today feels sharp, immediate. We try to delete it with distractions. Swipe right to forget. Scroll endlessly to avoid the silence. But grief, especially the kind that comes with love lost, doesn't disappear like that. The elderly know something different. They know that healing isn't fast, and it's never clean. Mr. James, who was married for 52 years before his wife passed, told me, "People kept telling me to stay busy, to travel, to get out of the house. But you know what helped the most? Talking about her, saying her name at the dinner table, keeping her in the room, even if only in spirit. That's not just about grief. It's about honoring. The past doesn't vanish when someone's gone. The love you gave doesn't need to be erased. It just needs to find a new shape." Our elders remind us, you don't move on, you move forward with the memory beside you. Briefcase challenge number 3. Losing a job, losing money, losing stability. Financial stress in today's world often comes with shame. We hide it. We pretend everything's fine. We feel like failures when things fall apart. But older generations, they've been through the real bottom. Mrs. Dolores, now 88, remembers. We stretched the chicken for 3 meals. We grew our own vegetables. We reused tea bags. We lost money, but we never lost our pride. You see, for them, survival wasn't about appearances. It was about community, creativity, dignity. And it wasn't embarrassing to struggle, because everyone was struggling together. They remind us that wealth can disappear in a moment, but character, that stays. That's what you protect. So when you're hit with financial loss, ask yourself, are you broken or just being reshaped? Our elders would say, you haven't failed, you're just being tested, and you will rebuild, maybe slower, maybe smaller, but stronger. Disappoint face challenge number 4. Feeling lost, stuck, or without purpose. We live in an age obsessed with finding your purpose. We listen to podcasts, read books, take courses, switch careers, and yet so many of us still feel lost. But talk to an older person, and their definition of purpose is so much simpler, so much richer. Mr. Liu, age 90, once told his grandson, when I felt lost, I stopped asking, what do I want? And I started asking, what can I give? That shift, it changes everything. Purpose isn't always about chasing a dream. Sometimes it's about washing someone's dishes, helping a neighbor fix a fence, sitting with a grieving friend, showing up. Our elders found meaning in service, not status, not followers, not accolades. They remind us that fulfillment doesn't come from looking inward all the time. Sometimes it comes from looking around and offering what you have, even if it's just your time, even if it's just your story. Coffin challenge number 5, grief and facing our own mortality. We don't talk about death much in today's world. We sanitize it, distract from it, push it far, far away. But the elderly don't fear death the way we do, because they've been close to it. They've buried friends, spouses, siblings. They've walked through the aching silence after the phone stops ringing. And still, many of them wake up grateful. Mama Joyce, age 94, once whispered, death teaches you to live louder, wear your favorite dress, use the good dishes, say the hard things, forgive quickly, because you never know when the day will be your last. She wasn't afraid when she said it. She was glowing. That's the gift of facing mortality. It doesn't make life smaller. It makes it brighter, sharper, sacred. Our elders don't ignore death. They use it as a reminder to love more boldly, to take fewer things for granted, and to cherish today, not someday. These 5 challenges, fear, heartbreak, financial ruin, aimlessness, and death, aren't unique to our generation, but how we respond to them can be. And our elders, they've walked these roads already. Their footprints are still there, waiting to guide us. We just have to slow down and follow them. Deciduous Tree Chapter 4, How to Access Elderly Wisdom Today. Wisdom doesn't always come knocking on your door. Sometimes you have to go looking for it. And often, it's sitting quietly in a rocking chair at the edge of a bed or in a quiet kitchen, just waiting for someone to ask. The truth is, we don't need to wait for some life crisis to tap into the guidance of our elders. We can seek it intentionally, gently, lovingly. Start by asking real questions, not just how are you feeling today or need anything from the store, but questions with weight. What's the hardest thing you ever lived through? What's one decision you wish you'd made differently? What did love mean to you when you were my age? And when they answer, really listen, not to reply, not to rush them, but to receive. Elderly people speak with space between their words, pauses that might feel too long in our fast world. But that silence, that rhythm, it's where the gold is. It's where the truth gathers before it's spoken. If they share something special, write it down, record it, use your phone, or a notebook, or even a voice memo. Because one day, you'll wish you could hear that story again and again. And if you don't have elders in your life right now, go find them. Volunteer at a senior center. Visit a neighbor. Offer them a chair and your time. You might be surprised how quickly a quiet stranger turns into a living library. And when they give you something powerful, don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone, pass it down, be the bridge between generations. Because when wisdom is shared, it doesn't fade, it multiplies. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important legacy we can carry forward. Sunrise, final reflection. We spend hours scrolling, chasing quotes, advice, answers. But the deepest truths, they rarely shout. They're not packaged in perfect lighting or polished reels. They come in soft voices that sometimes tremble from hands that have held both joy and loss, from eyes that have watched the world shift again and again and still find beauty in it. If you're facing something hard right now, a choice that feels heavy, a silence that hurts, a fear that lingers, pause. Don't just look forward. Look back. Find someone older, someone who's walked a few more miles than you have. Sit with them. Ask them something real. And then be quiet long enough to hear the truth behind their words. Because in that space, in that stillness, you might just find the answer you didn't even know you needed. Sometimes wisdom isn't loud. It just waits for you to listen. White heavy checkmark call to action. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's the greatest piece of wisdom you've ever received from someone older? Drop it in the comments. It might just be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this message moved you, share it. With a friend, with a parent, with a grandparent. Like, subscribe, and help us keep these stories, the ones that matter, alive. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth.